Hey, I want to welcome everybody to a take two of a very special Election Day live stream. I want to apologize to everybody that saw the horrendous live stream earlier. We had some audio problems, so I am going to go ahead and just redo this live stream for everybody that kind of missed out. And I hope you come back and watch the video. Like I said, today's a very special Election Day live stream. We're going to talk about how the election affects investments, and we're not going to talk politics here. I've got my own opinions, as everybody does, but when it comes to making money, I'm all green. There's no red or blue here. I'll take that. Oh, there's Lydia Santiago. So I want to do a better job of checking the top chats because they were telling me there's no audio in the last one and I didn't see it. But here we are, special Election Day coverage of how the election affects the stock markets. You know, which stocks could benefit from the midterm elections, and more importantly though is which stocks could benefit, over the next 5 or 10 years. Because I think what you're going to see, and this is from data that I pulled from Bloomberg and from other sources, is that from year to year, elections don't mean a whole lot. Might not mean a whole lot to stocks, and you really can't invest in according to just simply who wins the election. Might not be a great theme to go on. But there are some very real trends that we can follow, and actually something that nobody is watching right now that could affect the elections for at least the next decade. And I think it's going to mean some themes and some trends that you can jump on to really make some money. And then one last thing, it's the last day to get that one-on-one review in my goals-based investing strategy. This is the first time this is a goals-based investing strategy I developed while working with private wealth and private wealth clients. This is the first time I'm releasing it to the public as a workshop, as a 12 video workshop. And it's open till Friday for that special 1/3 pricing, but today is the last day to sign up and get that one-on-one review where I guide you through your risk tolerance questionnaire, your returns needs calculators, a lot of this stuff that's going to help you figure out what kind of investor you are and pick one of those 14 example portfolios we talk about in the course. But let's get started. Because this is, I know you all want to get to your polling places and vote. But I found some interesting data, and I want to share it with you here as far as, oh, there we are. And this, this is data from Bloomberg, shows the total 4-year return during each presidency, as well as an annualized return during that presidency for each president going back to 1926. And this is, it might be a little bit confusing, and again, we're not talking politics. We're not saying either party is better or worse for stocks. If you look here, the averages come out to about 16.6% return for under Republican presidents and 57% return under Democratic presidents. But the data is all messed up. We had those two huge wipeouts in 29 and then 2008. The Great Depression and the Great Recession happened to come under Republican presidents. If you take those out, then it's much more even. So, just looking at the returns during a presidency really don't tell us a whole lot about, who happens to do better, how stocks do better under control in the White House. Because there's all sorts of variations of this control that we have between the party controlling the White House and maybe the party controlling Congress, whether it's one party controlling the White House and Congress like we had the last 2 years, or looking like a kind of a split Congress and White House over the next 2 years, plus all that economic data that really influences stocks. So I don't think you can necessarily go with just that theme of which party is better for stocks. But let's not be naive to think that there aren't clear winners among stock sectors and industries within, under each party. So when a party comes to power and has more control, and that's just because parties tend to coalesce around certain policies and certain ideologies that happen to favor certain sectors and industries. And again, we're not talking politics. We're not talking which is better or worse. We're just saying that each party tends to favor certain sectors or industries through its ideological policies. And a good example of this, we'll go through quite a few of these sectors and industries. But one of the most common examples is healthcare is likely going to do better under the Democrats, under Democrat leadership. And that's not to say that the Republicans don't care about healthcare, and they do, but just that protection of the ACA and greater universal coverage that we're likely to get under maybe a Democrat control of the House or maybe even the Senate today or longer term. And that's just because, okay, if you extend healthcare out to universally to everyone, then that's going to be more healthcare demand. That's going to be more spending, healthcare spending to those facilities, those insurance providers, medical technologies, a lot of those companies in the healthcare space. And about the only healthcare segment that might not do as well under a Democratic leadership would be maybe those pharmaceuticals. And again, I know President Trump has talked a lot about his drug price programs that he wants to launch. But historically, there has been more headline risk for pharmaceuticals, for drug prices under Democratic administrations and Democratic control of Congress. And that's really a lot of what we're talking about here is besides just the tendency for some stocks or industries to do better under a certain party, is also that headline risk. Because we all know each of the parties has their own boogeyman, we'll call them, that they like to go after, and that's going to create headline risk when either that party controls Congress or the presidency and puts it up on their agenda to go after that industry or that sector. On the other hand, here defense spending usually does better under Republican control. So you've got Lockheed Martin, you've got Northrop Grumman and Raytheon. Companies with a little less international exposure may do better if the Republicans hold the Senate and don't lose too many seats in the House this election. And that's just because President Trump is going to have greater freedoms in his trade policies, which could limit or hurt companies that depend on exporting or importing as part of their business model. So companies with almost all of their business focused in the United States aren't going to have those trade pressures that we might see if the Democrats come in and kind of limit the president's trade authority. On the other side of the coin here, renewable energy tends to do better under Democrat administrations and Democrat control of Congress, while oil and natural gas tend to do better under Republicans. And then finally, the stocks of financial companies are also likely to do better under Republican rule as those regulations get loosened. And again, this isn't talking about politics or what's better or worse or right or wrong. Like I said, when it comes to making money, I'm not blue or red, I'm green. But under Republican administrations, we tend to get less regulations on financial companies. But so we're looking at these industries and sectors that tend to do better. But what is, and I know everybody wants to talk about who's going to win today. But what's more interesting than today's midterms, I think, and nobody is talking about this, is the possibility of the government moving even further to the Democrat side over the next 10 years. And there are two things that really are pointing to this, and that if you're going to play that theme of what companies tend to do better under which party, is something you need to watch. And this first is that even though today is going to be a really tough Senate election for Democrats. They had to defend something like 23 seats up for re-election versus Republicans only had to defend maybe 8 seats. Now that all flips over the next 2 elections. So in 2020, I think Republicans have to defend something like 20 seats, whereas Democrats only are at risk of losing about 10 if they lose all of them even. So even if the Democrats don't take the Senate today, they have a very good shot of taking that over in the next 4 years. And of course, they're favored to take the House today. So that could turn into full control of Congress over the next two election cycles for the Democrat side. Now, even more important than that, though, And one of the things that a lot of people aren't talking about right now is these governor races in each state. So the forecasts for today are looking like the Democrats are going to pick up control of about 8 or more state governorships. Now, and that's gonna put it about even. That's gonna put it about I think 26 governorships will be controlled by Republican Party, and then about 24 Democrats and a couple independents in there. Now that's important because it's these governors that are voted in today, and then the existing ones that are going to control that 2020 redistricting for the census. So if you remember that in 2010, the Republicans had that huge wave where they took a lot of state governors and state houses, and that's what helped the Republicans in a lot of these states redraw the map to make it easier to elect members of their own party. And again, we're not talking politics. I'm not talking about the what happened in these redistricts. I'm just talking about, the fact of the matter is whoever controls these state houses during these census years, this 2020, 2010, like we saw, is going to have a lot of leeway, a lot of power to redraw these districts and put more control in their in their hands over the next 10 years, because that occurs for 10 years, and it makes it easier for that party to get elected into the House. So with these two forces working for the Democrats, it's not just which stocks are going to do better over the next 2 years because of today's elections and how today's elections might affect the stock market, but maybe which are going to benefit over the next decade. So again, it's not obviously the elections matter, and whoever controls Congress and the presidency matters to the stock market. It's not the only factor. Obviously, you have to look at a lot of other things. But if you're looking for that theme, and that tailwind, I think is important. If you're looking for a tailwind for certain stock sectors and certain industries, that could be it to favor some of those sectors like healthcare, like renewable energies that we looked at earlier. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A pretty soon here. I just want to go over one more time on that special offer. Today is the last day to get that special one-on-one review within that goals-based investing strategy in that workshop. Again, the workshop is open through Friday at that special 1/3 pricing because it's the first launch. We're dropping the price down to $95, 12 video lessons, 6 hours of videos, and really a complete step-by-step into shifting your strategy from that traditional returns-based strategy that everybody follows and that just frankly ends up losing your money to fees and a lot of those bad investor mistakes, to a goal-based strategy that I developed while working with private wealth clients. So that's going to be open until Friday to sign up. But for people signing up by the end of today, you get that special one-on-one review with me to really start your plan out. So that won't be available after today. So I'm going to open it up to questions if there are any. Again, go out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but just understand that your vote matters, and then when you get back home and start thinking about what you want to invest in, think about some of the things we talked about, the sectors as well as the industries, and which tend to do better depending on who controls Congress. So thank you for being part of this live stream. Sorry about the audio problems in the previous video. Thank you for being part of the community. And watch out for those videos this week, and we'll probably be doing another live stream maybe this Saturday. So see you then.